There are over 30 flows that you can build in Klaviyo. And if you count every variation, every best practice template, every agency's proprietary system, you're looking at over 100 different versions of the right answer. And I've generated over 105 million in attributed email revenue across more than 100 different e-com brands. And today I'm ranking every single Klaviyo flow from God tier to F tier, and I'm showing you the receipts. None of this is theory. None of this is best practices. It's real revenue data from real brands. And for each one, I'm gonna give you the #1 mistake brands make and one quick win that you can steal today. So let's get into it. All right, cool, let's get into it. So first things first, I ranked every Klaviyo flow so that you don't have to. And this is based on over $100 million in attributed revenue across 100 different brands, from big billion-dollar behemoths like Swissgear to 7- and 8-figure brands, and creeping up to 9-figure brands across the board. So none of what you're about to see is theory. It's not best practices. And like I said, all of this comes from real revenue data. And every number in this video comes from a live client dashboard. So let's go ahead and rank them all. First, we got to clear out the air. Now, I know this is going to seem like I already know this stuff, but I promise you probably haven't seen this. Most brands spend 95% of their email and retention efforts on campaigns, right? With weekly send, promos, and newsletters. So why are flows actually important? Because flows make up only 5% of the total email sends, but they generate 6 to 8 times the amount of revenue per send than campaigns do. And this isn't a number that is made up. This is actually based on Klaviyo's official 2026 benchmark report from 110,000 brands on their platform. So flows are behavioral, and they fire when a customer does something, whether that's signing up, abandoning the cart, or buying. And campaigns, on the other hand, are generally calendar driven. They only fire when you decide to actually send them. And so what this means is that we can deduct that behavioral timing beats calendar timing every single time. And it makes sense psychologically speaking, because you're catching people at the exact moment they're thinking about your brand. And the reality is that while you're agonizing over the next campaign send, the subject line, the offer, the timing, and these things that are important, the true important thing to focus on is your flows, because they're quietly doing the heavy lifting behind the brand, right? And for most brands, the truth is, after auditing over 300 different companies, they're either broken, their flows are misconfigured, or they're just missing entirely. And your biggest revenue lever is probably running on autopilot with a generic template from 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. So what we're doing today is walking through every flow by category and ranking each one so you know exactly which one stands where. We're going to start off with the welcome flow. Super important. 30 to 50% of all flow revenue generally comes from this one flow across every brand. I don't care what industry you're in. You usually see about 8 to 15% conversion, around $3 to $8 revenue per recipient. On average, it could be higher if you have a higher ticket product, or lower if you have a lower, quick consumable product. And generally you get 50 to 7% open rates. And it is the only flow that every single subscriber in your email list enters. And this is some proof. This is from a brand that we work with. You can see the last 2 months we've generated just under 130K in revenue. You can see how many flow deliveries we have here. And this is the email right here. You can see what makes this email special is that it leads with the offer. For instance, it's a $25 off code, and there's no need to waste the subscribers' time with newsletter fluff. They signed up for something, boom, we give them the code right there. You can see the offer right here, and we can talk a little bit about the brand, what makes it special. You have social proof that adds a higher perceived value to the offer, and then we basically add some more icons on where we've been mentioned and things like this. And you can see that it does really well. This is another brand. This is for a brand called Earthing Harmony. In the last 12 months, their welcome flow has generated 835K in revenue with 673K deliveries. And the #1 mistake that I see most brands make is that there's no expiration on the welcome offer. They screenshot it. Most people will save it for later and they'll forget it, and they never actually use it. So a quick win is to add a 7-day expiration. And generally, most brands see a 20 to 40% conversion lift from that deadline alone. And the reason for that is because urgency is the best reason for people to actually act now. So I'm going to go ahead and take this welcome flow, and we are going to rank it S tier. Boom, welcome flow, S tier. All right, let's get into the checkout abandonment. Now, this is where people enter their payment information, something interrupts them. Maybe their kids are screaming, they get a work call, they're late for something, they got to bounce, or maybe they just genuinely got distracted by something else. Generally, we see about an 8 to 18% conversion on these with a $32 revenue per recipient. This is across the board for our particular clients, dozens of clients. So it's the whole idea here is that it's a nudge. It's not a pitch. And the tone is that it's a service. It's not sales. It looks like something got in the way. Your order's still here. That's sort of the vibe that we're going for here. Now, here's the proof. For this particular brand that sells construction equipment, we did 276K from this one flow alone, which is generating about 23K a month for this particular flow. Every single month. And the RPR is $32, and you can see some of the data right here. And this is the email right here, nothing fancy. We know how important this is. We're dynamically showing the items right here. And then from here, you can actually see how we're pointing out that it's totally okay if you were looking at something else, if you got distracted or whatever the case may be. It's not a pushy tone. And you can see how we're building some of that social proof right here. We're talking about why our brand is special and why professionals actually choose us. And then right here, if you can take a look, you can see how we're actually driving people to reply to this email. We do this for two reasons. One, to reduce objections and reduce churn for people who are actually abandoning this. And two, to actually give people an outlet to engage with us so that we can give them better product guidance and give them that human touch point that makes the brand do so well. And the number one mistake that I see on checkout abandonment flows is that they treat it like cart abandonment. These are two totally different types of customer segments. One is warmer than the other. An abandoned browse is not the same as someone who abandoned cart, and that's not the same as someone who's abandoning checkout. They're in different cycles of the life cycle stage. And so the quick win that you can have here is split the cart and checkout into separate flows. You have two separate metrics and triggers in Klaviyo for a reason. And so checkout becomes more of a service recovery versus cart becomes more of a social proof play so that we can get people warmer to actually either check out or abandon the checkout so that we can get them into that specific nurturing flow. These people were about to buy, so we have to act like it. I personally love the checkout abandonment flow. I think it's my second favorite flow. We're actually going to go ahead and rank this bad boy with S tier as well. Cool. Let's talk cart abandonment. This is the warmest non-buyers segment after the checkout abandoners, and the product was already in their cart. Generally, we see a 15 to 30% conversion on flow revenue, 5 to 12% conversion total, and a $5 to $15 revenue per recipient. And the structure works at any price point. It doesn't matter what vertical you're in. Here's some proof. For this particular brand, we did 110K in revenue with the abandoned carts over the last 12 months. And you can see we have a $65 revenue per recipient for this particular product. And you can see right here, the way that this email is structured is that we're pulling on some of the levers. We sell taxidermy fish mounts that are ecological. They're not real fish. So this could be you. What are you waiting for? And immediately we're dropping in some social proof from a client testimonial where you can see that the detail, the color, and the shape of my snapper is incredible. The reason for that is because we want to expel some of the objections that some people might think as to whether or not this mount actually looks real. And you can come down here and see that we're actually building in some FOMO by helping them continue where they left off. And we're just dangling some of these beautiful designs in front of their face so that you can see some of the different mounts that we have and create more opportunities for product guidance. Now, the biggest mistake that I generally see with a cart abandon is that people lead with a discount in email one. Most people just get distracted. You have to give them a chance to come back. And there's a bigger subset of people, myself included, that will actually abandon a cart on purpose, knowing that there will likely be a discount coming in the inbox. And so we want to train people to move away from that. And the quick win that you can implement here is to delay the email to 1 hour. You're going to remove the discount if you have it in email touchpoint 1. You're going to add some social proof, and then you're going to save the discount offer for either email 2 or email 3 onwards. You want to remind them first, proof second, and discount last. I love the abandoned cart flow. These are all moving in order, and I am going to rate this one in the S tier as well. This is what I call the trifecta of flows. These are should absolutely be in your core flow build out. Otherwise, you are leaving a ton of revenue on the table. Let's get into the browse abandonment. This is a lower intent, but it has massive volume. This is where you catch the window shoppers and you can actually nurture people later down the funnel into your product. We generally see a 5 to 10% of total flow revenue attribution, 2 to 5% conversion rate on this, and $1 to $4 revenue per recipient, depending on the client and vertical. And the volume makes up for the lower conversion rate because these are people that are very interested in the product, but they're just browsing. So I want to go through some proof really quick. This is Growplex, a hair loss brand. In the last 12 months, we did 144K in revenue off of 307,000 in flow deliveries. It is a product, a review, and a call to action. It actually doesn't even have a discount. And you can see the actual email that we built in here where we're talking about welcoming people to better hair days because we are a hair loss brand. And we're glad you're here and we couldn't be more excited. This is actually email number 3, but you can see down here, you can see we have some before and after testimonials with some of the different time frames. So you can see 6 months results, you can see 3 months results before and after. And the whole idea here is that we are building in the expectations for customers who are just browsing the product and just browsing the brand and letting them know what they can expect so that we can actually get them in and get them to commit to using the product. So we have some social proof right here, some of the actual results that we have based on our scientific studies, and we're just giving people a gentle nudge here to actually get in. Now, the biggest mistake again is that discounting browsing abandoners too early in the process actually trains a discount dependent audience, like I mentioned. And I probably should have showed a better example of our email number 1 as opposed to email number 3. But here's a quick one for your browse abandon. What you want to do is lead with the product and social proof. What are the results? What are the outcomes? What are the benefits? And then ultimately, is there people actually using this? And can we massage our potential browse abandoners to actually take action on this because they know that there's a ton of people and it's a proven product, right? Show them the product, give them a review, and then give them the call to action. That's the whole email. The idea here is relevance, not bribery. I love the browse abandon. I think it's more of a higher volume flow, but I'm going to go ahead and rank this one in the A tier. Now we have 4 different flows in this one. This is going to be the rest of the pre-purchase process. And the whole intent ladder here is that we have people who visit the site, people who browse, people who abandon cart and abandon checkout. These are the highest intent. Now, site abandonment. These are people that visited, they never reached the product page. You generally need some sort of triple pixel or black crow to fire. And the whole idea here is that you want to have an educational matrix. Do not say that you left this behind. They abandoned the site. We want to pull them a little bit more deeper into our world. Then we have the quiz follow-up. They gave you the answers. If you have some sort of Octane AI quiz or some other quiz builder that you're implementing into your top of funnel system, this is a great way to actually recover a ton of revenue. I'm going to make a whole different video on quiz funnels and building these quiz systems in the retention channel. So make sure to keep your eye out for that. But the whole idea here is to give people product guidance, give them answers to their questions, and ultimately wire this all together into a personalized recommendation of product within a couple minutes that they actually go through the quiz, right? So if they don't buy in the quiz, they buy in the nurturing flows that we build in Klaviyo afterwards. Then you have the back in stock flow. This can work very well if you generally have like some product flow issues or things like this. You have a back in stock wait list or email sign up. It works very good because people are signing up and they're high intent and they want the product, they just can't get it. It's a low volume, but it can actually pull a lot of weight. And the best way to do this is to put a sign up on every sold out page for any SKU that you have. You have the price drop. This is another good one. If you are generally running sales very rarely, or maybe you're running purely SKU specific sales, this is a great way to get high conversions on low volume. What we generally do for brands is we'll take a look at what are some of the SKUs that are maybe not moving so much and that we have a ton of inventory and we want to free up some cash flow. We'll run very specific product price drop campaigns to move some of those units. So it operates as a flow because you can dynamically set it up within Klaviyo flows, but it kind of works as a campaign as well. So you want to build these after the S tiers are locked. And I personally love all of these. I'm going to go ahead and rate these all together. I like the price drop. I just don't think it's very useful if you don't have a lot of sales happening during the year. And ultimately, if you don't have a lot of SKUs or inventory that you want to move. The back in stock is great. If you have inventory issues or flow issues, this is an incredible flow to have because again, it's really low volume and it works excellently. The site abandonment, this is going to be a little bit controversial. I think a lot of people would rate this maybe like as an A or a B. I just don't think it's that high of an intent funnel. And ultimately, it's a lot of volume, and you could risk having some spam issues or unsubscribe issues because of it. So I'd proceed with caution on this one. I'm going to rate it as a C tier. And the quiz follow-up is amazing. I actually want to rate this as an A tier because if you have a built-out quiz system in your retention channel, this is one of the best flows that we've seen perform for clients, depending on whatever, regardless of whatever products they have, because we can then personalize those emails based on the actual quiz answers. So I'm going to go ahead and rate that A tier. Halfway through, let's go ahead and talk about the post-purchase flow. The post-purchase flow, in my opinion, is the most neglected flow in email marketing as a whole. Brands generally, the biggest mistake I see is that they go silent after a customer purchase, which is when they're the most excited. The first to second purchase conversion is usually 20 to 40% of conversion that we can get from this. And we usually have about a 5 to 7 email sequence, depending on your product, the life cycle of it, if it's a consumable, how fast you usually go through it, how big we want to sort of create this second purchase ramp. It all depends. A lot of times we offer 0 discounts. Some brands want to be more aggressive and offer a discount, but the whole idea here is to increase the rate of first to second purchase. The average is 20 to 30%, but stronger programs can hit upwards of 40%. Now the proof here, you can see we have, for this particular brand, we generated 42K in revenue from this flow by itself. You can see post-purchase flow down here on 13K deliveries, which is awesome. You can see we've got your order. We immediately take people through this funnel of like, you've already taken a big step towards getting the right products for your business, and we're proud to have you here. You can view the status of your order, and that's going to give you the tracking details. And here's what to expect. It's just a simple shipping timeline and a contact block if anybody has any questions, especially if you have a higher ticket product. A lot of times customers will experience what is called buyer's remorse. And so what we want to do here is we want to calm that buyer's remorse, reduce any possibility of customers having it. And some of the best ways to do that are to keep them updated along the way, tell them what to expect, get them excited, and give them an outlet to actually get support. And again, the biggest mistake I see here is that people will discount right away after they someone buys something, which ultimately devalues what they just paid full price for. And so a quick one you can do here is build the full sequence, have a purchase confirmation, have a brand story after that to introduce them, have the product education so that we can increase product adoption and ultimately product usage, which means people come back to buy again. And then of course, review requests and a cross-sell opportunity. This is the full system that we generally build, and highly recommend having all of this because it just works in tandem and in unison. So you want to create education, create opportunities for reviews, cross-sells, but never any coupons, because again, these people just took out their wallet and they paid. And so they're pretty warm as is. There's no need to discount things. So I'm going to go ahead and rate the post-purchase in the A tier. I love the post-purchase. And like I said, it's one of the most neglected ones. Now let's talk about the rest of the post-purchase sequences. You have number 1, the review request. Generally, we send this after someone receives their product. You give it a couple days of buffer time for someone to actually open it, unbox it, and all this stuff. And that's when we send the review request, generally how it's going. And you can rate us depending if you have the Judge Me integration or any other review platform. They can rate right there in the email. So it is a great way to actually set this up. Cross-sell, I love it. If you brought product A, we generally recommend product B. We take a look at your top 10 best-selling SKUs of all times, look at different categories, different cohorts, who's buying what and what's being bundled and purchases together. And we cross-sell based on that data, so we know we're basing it off of actual sales data instead of just, oh, if someone bought this product, I think they'd love that one, right? Because that doesn't necessarily work. Data works. Then we have the replenishment flow. This is generally for consumables or high replenishment rate products. You want to trigger this a couple days before they actually run out. So let's say you're selling vitamins, you have a 30-day supply. You want to trigger this around day 20, day 25, so that people have enough time to actually buy it, purchase it, and create product education so that we can increase the usage and get people to actually stick to their habits, right? You got the shipping and referral flows. Of course, you have Shopify defaults. This is okay. I actually prefer building these transactional templates inside of Klaviyo because it gives us a little bit more control over it. And here's what the post-purchase timeline generally looks like. You have people who confirm their order, we introduce people to the brand, we have some sort of project education to actually get them to use the product, we have a review request, and then we ultimately cross-sell down the line. Again, this is more of a cookie cutter template. You want to adjust this to your particular brand and products, but it works very well. And then as far as replenishment timing, like I said, someone purchases, you want to remind them on day 25 if they have a 30-day supply, for example. And then ultimately, if you're doing that around after the date that of the actual time frame that they have to consume the product, you're usually too late, and you usually end up burning that particular sale. So you want to make sure that you're doing this at the right time. Now, we have a couple of different tiers for these. So let's go ahead and get these in here. Cross sell, I absolutely love it. I'm going to rate it as a B tier. For some brands, it works extremely well. For brands, it does okay. I love it. Review requests, if you are big on reviews, I would absolutely set this up. I'm going to set this up as a B tier. Then we have the replenishment. I absolutely love this one. I'm actually going to rate it as an A tier, just because we generally work with a lot of subscription brands and high replenishment or consumable rate brands. And this is one of the highest converting flows. Then we have the shipping and referral. This one's okay. If you want to keep it transactional, you can on Shopify. I'm going to rate it as a C because it's not necessarily a revenue generating flow. It's more transactional, but it does pretty good in the long run if you have the right setup on it. So I'm going to rate it as a C. I don't think it's necessarily worse than that, for example. Let's talk about the win back. This one is huge because it allows us to recover lapsed customers. And it's the one place where escalating discounts actually makes strategic sense. So if you're waiting for an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive on the discounts, the win back flow is where you want to do that. Now, 5 to 10% of flow revenue generally comes from the win back. We usually have a 3 email arc, and email 1 usually earns the most amount of revenue, as with most flows for the most part. So the whole idea here is that we want to allow customers to have enough time to go through our entire email sequences, pre-purchase and post-purchase, of course, but we want to bake in sort of this Hail Mary last attempt to get people to come back in. And the proof for this is a smaller brand. You can see we've generated 25.6K from 1 month with this particular win-back flow, which is awesome. You can see this is the actual email that we created. This is the above the fold section. So we have a lifestyle photo with the product in the real setting, and we have a little bit of a personal tone. We are actually launching this one specifically on Sundays because based on the data, we realize that that is the day where we have the highest amount of abandoned checkouts and people who are trying to purchase again, but actually not following through with it. So we're personalizing that. And as far as the number one mistake, generally, it means starting with a discount. Email 1 should be more emotional. It's more of like a, hey, we miss you. Here's what's new. Here's some updates on our company. Here's some new product releases. Here's something that we think it's worth checking out, because we don't want to come off too salesy and too strong. Later on in email 2 and number 3 is where we want to get more aggressive with the discounts. So a quick win is to add a sunset warning to the last email. It's going to filter the list and creates urgency at the same time. Anybody who actually doesn't go through this should actually get put into the sunset flow because, again, we're not converting with them. And we're assuming that you're also running campaigns on the front end to get them to come back. So ultimately, emotion first, and then you're going to want to offer last. I love the win back flow. I think it does very good. For some brands, it does better than others, but I'm going to go ahead and rate this in the A tier. Finishing up here, we have a couple more. Let's talk about the sunset flow. Now, before, Klaviyo actually made some pricing changes in 2026 this year, where they are now billing you based on the number of profiles that you have as opposed to a standard tier plan. This would actually be a lower tier flow, but I'm going to walk through why I actually think it's one of the best flows you can have. Because a lot of times it makes 0 direct revenue, but it does protect everything else as far as your deliverability and just keeping your list tight and your Klaviyo spending on a monthly basis low. A smaller engaged list is always going to beat a large dead one every single time. And so this is really a deliverability shield, as we like to call it, right? Because you have the sunset flow, and this is protecting all of your other flows right here. It's protecting your sender domain reputation because it's the invisible ceiling on most of your entire email program that's causing a ton of bloat on your billing. And ultimately, you're hoarding all these different customers that have no business being in your email list because they haven't engaged with your products, whether that's a click or being on site or buying anything or opening an email or anything like that, Generally, for about 6 months is our sweet spot. A lot of brands like to be a little bit more aggressive to keep their Klaviyo bill a little bit lower. A lot of brands would prefer to actually lengthen that to about a year out, but we love the 6 month time period. Now, quick win, usually 2 emails, plain text, get you the most amount of opens and inboxing. Are you still there? This is our last email. Anybody who's a non-clicker gets suppressed. They don't get deleted, they just get suppressed. And so what we want them to do is we want them to open it up, click it up, and then our inbox placement goes up, and then everything downstream performs better because we have a lower Klaviyo bill, and ultimately we're not paying for this crazy amount of profiles. That's more of an ego play. It's like, oh, I have an email list of 1 million people, but like 900K are unsubscribed or like not even engaging, and ultimately you're stuck fronting a giant bill, which isn't pretty on the ego either. So I love the sunset. Like I said, in previous years, I would rate this as a lower tier flow, but because it allows us to protect our deliverability and protect our actual Klaviyo bill, then I'm going to rate it in the A tier. All right, now these are some retention extras. These are great to have. These are great if you have a bigger company, if you have a very specific product base. VIP loyalty, this is huge. Generally, anybody who purchases 3 times or more or is pegged to a certain lifetime spend value. A lot of brands have loyalty programs, which is great if you're using Loyalty Lion or some sort of referral candy or something like this. A lot of times, a lot of the brands that we work with drive an insane amount of loyalty and repeat revenue from this. So I love this flow. Then we have the anniversary flow. This is more like a birthday, or if you have an anniversary with the brand itself, like you first bought from us on this day, happy anniversary, right? It's cool, it works. We have the birthday flow as well. Now, a lot of times, I think these flows are cute. They do well. It depends on your brand. It depends on how you're usually approaching your customer relationships. I personally am not the biggest fan of these. I would rate these as an anniversary. I think that one's a C tier. A birthday flow, if you want to collect it, that's okay. A lot of people are against actually giving away their birthday information on sign-up forms and things like this. You could send campaigns to actually get some of these VIP people to give you the information on their birthday. I personally don't like it. I think it's a little bit invasive, and for all that work, I would rather put that effort into other programs. Now, the VIP loyalty, I'm actually going to rate it as a B tier because a lot of brands actually generate a ton of their monthly recurring and yearly, year-over-year revenue with this. So I'm going to rate that as a B tier. Cool. Now, let's talk about flows that do not matter. These are F tier flows. Klaviyo generally suggests like 30 plus flow templates. You do not need most of them. In fact, a lot of times if you end up setting this all up because you think it's going to help you do better, you end up killing your deliverability and you end up annoying the shit out of your customers and your subscribers. And it's like, I want nothing to do with this freaking brand. So what are these? Wish list reminders, thank you flows, new product flows, flash sale flows, survey flows, double opt-in flows. These are okay. I prefer to actually have these as campaigns instead of actually having these as flows. The only one that I would say maybe makes it out of this list is the survey flow. Now, as part of your post-purchase experience, if you want to fit that in there so that you can capture consumer data based on their experience with your brand, whether that's ordering or using your product, it's an excellent flow to have. But honestly, these generally end up being redundant and they kind of suck. So this might be a little bit controversial. I do not like any of these flows. So I'm actually going to rate these as F tier for the thank you flow. That's what a post-purchase flow is. Satisfaction survey, I'm actually going to go ahead and rate this as a C tier. A lot of brands actually they launch this flow and they don't even use the information or data that they get from it, which is a big mistake. If you leverage this a lot, then this could be a higher ranked tier, but I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. And then wish list reminder, garbage. Let's put that into the F tier. Now, what is the flow that, in my opinion, if you're going to build one flow and if you're going to spend time split testing this every single week, every single month, testing different variations and aligning on your offer, because it is the best flow across the board, it's going to be the trifecta, the welcome, the checkout, and the cart. They generally drive 60% of your total revenue or more. And you can see usually how that breakdown looks right here. But if I were to pick only one, it's definitely going to be the welcome flow. Because again, for a lot of different brands, it drives 30 to 50% of the total flow revenue. It has the highest open rates and the highest engagement because it is the one thing that is linked to your sign up form. And that's what people are incentivized to actually join for. And this is what's going to print you the most amount of money and engagement downstream. So before you actually do any of these other flows across the board, you're going to want to make sure that you are playing with your welcome flow. And as a result, that's going to go into the God tier. It's the only God tier flow that fits. The S tiers, like I said, the trifecta are very well, but if you're going to do anything, you're absolutely going to want to work on the welcome flow. Now, shameless pitch time. Less email, more money. Generally, brands that cut the volume 47% of their total, this is internal audit of what we did with the brands that we've worked with, but rebuilt their flows across the board based on consumer psychology, your product market fit, how people are using your products, and ultimately the psychology that your consumers have before purchasing and after purchasing. Once we build around that, we can see these flows do a lot better. A lot of times we actually get 20 to 30% of a higher attribution for some of the brands that we work with when we make these changes. And that's ultimately what I want you to consider, right? So if you want help building a retention program that's going to withstand the test of time, but more importantly, maximize the conversions you're getting and create a better customer experience and journey for people who are getting involved with your brand, then I would love to do a free retention audit. It's totally free. There's no strings attached. I'm going to do a full, I think it's like an 80-point inspection where we're walking through absolutely everything from list growth to signups to your welcome flows, your core flows, post-purchase, pre-purchase psychology, things like this. Generally, this is for brands doing over $1 million a year. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to get your flows performing, what you're doing right, what you could be doing better, and what you're maybe not doing at all. And you can see the link in the description, blossomecom.com/partner. You can book a call. It's totally free. Again, there's no strings attached. A lot of people who end up going through this end up wanting to work together. And if that's you, awesome. At the end of the day, there's no strings attached because it doesn't cost you anything. And at the very end of the day, the pitch is we have a performance guarantee. So if we don't actually generate 20% or more of your attributed email revenue, then you do not pay a penny. So click the link in the description, subscribe for more weekly deep dives. This has been a full flow ranking from God tier to F tier. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.